night is never truly silent. When the world falls asleep, it's the whispers behind the shadows that begin to speak. Welcome to Whisper in Shadows, a place where true stories, rejected by reason, buried by logic, begin to breathe again. Tonight's episode isn't just a horror tale. It's the trail of something, once contained, now free. Not just an object, but an entity, one that can see into you. So make sure your light is bright enough. Take a deep breath and listen carefully, because if you can hear it, it can hear you too. Before you dive into this story, I suggest you find a comfortable place to sit, and if you can, don't listen alone, because what you're about to hear isn't just another creepy tale. This is something that's said to be real. It started as a whisper on the dark corners of the internet, but over time, it began to feel a little too real. You've probably heard the name Annabelle, the most infamous doll in paranormal history. But here's the thing. She isn't fiction. She isn't just a movie character. The real Annabelle, now locked away in the Warren Occult Museum, is a worn vintage doll believed to be possessed by a demonic entity. Even today, she remains sealed in a glass case, surrounded by Latin prayers and spiritual wards, untouchable, unmovable, and most importantly, never to be released. But about a month ago, the horror community online suddenly lit up with panic. It all started with a single anonymous post, a photo allegedly taken from inside the museum. At first glance, it looked ordinary, a dim room, a familiar glass case in the center. But what sent chills down everyone's spine was what wasn't in the photo. The case was empty. The caption? Just one cold sentence: "The case is empty." People reacted in every way possible. Some called it fake Photoshop. Others claimed it was viral marketing for a new horror film. But here's what made it eerie. Just hours after the post went viral, the account disappeared. Not just the post. The entire profile vanished. Searches returned. User not found. And if that wasn't strange enough, a video surfaced that same night. A shaky, grainy clip less than 10 seconds long. It showed someone walking through the museum hallway. Slowly, only the sound of their breathing could be heard, their hands trembling as they approached the glass case. And when they got close, you could see it clearly. The case was really empty. You could hear them whisper, barely above a breath, "She's not here." Then the video cuts out. At this point, people stopped calling it a hoax. Other accounts started to share similar stories. One claimed their cousin worked security at the museum. They said that on the night of the photo, the CCTV camera in Annabelle's room went dark, just for 3 minutes. 3 full minutes. No footage. No one seen entering or leaving. When the system came back online, Annabelle was gone. The museum didn't make any official statement. In fact, their website went offline for 2 whole days. No explanations. No updates. And in the silence, the internet boiled over. Theories started flooding in. Some said she was stolen, but then why? Didn't the alarms go off? Why did the cameras glitch at the exact right moment? And why did the museum choose to say nothing? There's one theory, one that makes my skin crawl. It's something often discussed in paranormal circles, that entities like Annabelle, they feed on attention, on curiosity, on fear. Every time someone says her name, searches her image, or watches her story, it's like feeding something that was never meant to be fed. So maybe, after all these years in that glass prison, that night was the moment her power was finally strong enough to break free, without help, without anyone touching her. And if that's true, then right now, Annabelle isn't missing. She's free. A few days after the story went viral, I got a message from an old friend who lives in Connecticut. He's not someone who's usually active on social media, But when he stumbled across a thread about the doll, he messaged me right away. He said something strange was happening near his neighborhood. He lives not far from where the Warren Occult Museum still stands, that old, worn-down building that's rarely open to the public anymore. He told me one of his friends had just picked up a temporary gig, doing night shifts around the perimeter of the museum. Not a regular employee, more like a freelance hire. Apparently, some motion sensors in the back had been malfunctioning, and they needed an extra set of eyes. The job seemed simple. Start at 11 p.m., finish by 4 a.m. But on his very first night, something felt wrong right from the start. The place felt off. The hallway lights kept flickering even though the technician had signed off on them the day before. But it wasn't just the lights. He said it felt like something unseen was following him, trailing behind him, just out of sight as he walked those dark corridors. The air was freezing, so cold he could see his own breath, even though the AC was turned off. But what really made his blood turn to ice was the sound. At exactly 2:47 a.m., he was sitting in the monitoring room, watching the screens in silence, when he heard it. A soft noise, faint, deliberate, tap, tap, tap. It sounded like it was coming from glass. At first, he thought it was just the window, but then he looked at camera 3, the one pointed directly at the old display room. His hand froze. The glass case where Annabelle used to be was fogging up from the inside, and the tapping sound was coming from within the box. Panicked, he grabbed his walkie-talkie and tried calling his partner, but the moment he pressed the button, it wasn't a voice that came through. It was a hisslow, broken static hand, then a whisper, a voice that sounded like a woman, but warped, like a damaged tape played in reverse. And she only said 3 words. She was never gone, only free. After that, he didn't dare continue his rounds. He just sat there, completely still, his face pale, his hands clutching the flashlight like it was the only thing keeping him grounded. When dawn broke, and the shift change finally arrived, he didn't say a word. He just looked at his partner with empty eyes, like someone who'd seen something his mind couldn't quite process. That same day, he submitted his resignation by email. No long explanations, just a single sentence: "I can't work here anymore." And since then, he's refused to speak about that night ever again. As the story grew, so did the questions. People started demanding proof. Where's the CCTV footage? It became the most asked question on every horror forum once the Annabelle rumors resurfaced. But strangely, not a single video from June 4th or 5th could be found. None. Even those who claimed to have spoken off the record with museum staff said the same thing. The footage for those 2 nights was completely corrupted. The system glitched, the hard drives dashed dead, total failure. And yet, the days before that, perfectly fine, clear, playable. Eventually, the museum issued a statement. They called it a technical malfunction. But the internet didn't buy it, because there was something that made the whole thing even more suspicious. The backup footage, the one automatically uploaded to the internal cloud, that one was gone too. Not damaged, not corrupted, just gone. Like someone or something hadn't just broken one system, but all of them: the servers, the cameras, the hard drives, even the access logs, all dead at once. Some people said it was sabotage. But if that's true, then who got in? There were no signs of forced entry. The control room locks were untouched. No new fingerprints. No surveillance logs of anyone opening the storage room in over 48 hours. And yet, the doll was still gone, with no more logical explanations left. The museum called in an outside paranormal team, veterans with decades of experience investigating haunted artifacts. They arrived with the full toolkit: EMF detectors, temperature gauges, infrared cameras, low-frequency audio recorders. Their mission: to find evidence of spiritual interference. At first, the readings were normal, low temperature variances, minimal static charge. But then they entered the old archives, a back room, rarely used, tucked deep in the rear of the museum, and everything changed. The EMF meter spiked red, the temperature sensors flipped violently. The air grew heavy, so thick that one of the team members could barely breathe. And then, the temperature began to drop fast, as if something was pulling the warmth out of the air. That's when one of their infrared cameras caught something just for a moment. 2 seconds at most. A small figure, not human, not animal, bent low, almost crawling, moving across the corner of the room, like a doll walking on its own, and then static. The video cut out completely, but it was enough. Enough to make one of the investigators burst into tears, sobbing uncontrollably. Through cracked breath, they said, "Whatever we're chasing, it's not just an object anymore." That very night, the team packed their equipment and left. They refused to stay. Before leaving, they demanded all recordings be handed over to them, no copies, no backups. But a few hours after they left the museum grounds, their van broke down on a remote forest road. All electronics stopped working, phones, GPS, even the car's internal system, dead cold, as if something followed them. Then one of them, sitting in the back seat, heard a sound. Soft, measured, tap, tap. 3 knocks. But there was nothing outside the van, until they turned slowly toward the rear window and saw it. A face pressed against the glass. A doll's face, grinning wide, eyes hollow, and then gone. Since that night, not one member of the team has agreed to speak publicly. They cut all contact. No follow-up reports, no updates. All the footage they took, gone. All equipment abandoned. And the last thing found was a single note, written in haste, barely legible: "Don't ever go back." To this day, no one knows for certain whether the recordings were truly corrupted or deliberately erased. But one thing has become horrifyingly clear: what we thought was just an object behind glass is now moving. And maybe, just maybe, it's not alone anymore. 3 days after the footage went missing, and the paranormal team fled the museum, something happened that made all of it feel horrifyingly real. No longer just a mystery creeping behind screens, but something physical, deadly. A 23-year-old man, named Cole Henders, was reported dead in a motorcycle crash on a rural highway, just past 1:40 a.m. At first, police treated it like any other accident. The bike lost control, slammed into a tree. Cole died instantly. But what made this case different was what Cole had done just days before. Turns out, Cole was one of the final 14 visitors to the museum before the doll disappeared. And according to his girlfriend, Cole had been messing around. While inside the storage area, he tapped on the glass of Annabelle's case, joking about waking up demons. A friend even recorded it, a short video that was uploaded to Snap Story. It disappeared not long after. In the video, Cole laughs and says, "If you're really alive, come mess with me." He even pressed his forehead to the glass. 2 days later, Cole started to change. His girlfriend said he began waking up in the middle of the night, soaked in sweat. He said he'd been having nightmares about knocking sounds, and a soft laugh coming from inside his closet. She thought he was just stressed. But then came the part she couldn't explain. Every morning, their closet door was slightly open, even though they always shut it tight. And one morning, she saw them, tiny smudge marks on the inside of the door, fingertips, far too small to be his or hers. The night before Cole died, he stopped for dinner at a roadside diner. It was quiet, empty, just a few people lingering over coffee. But the diner's security footage, it captured something that's never been explained. Cole sat at a table for 2, and across from him, something was there. Something small, unmoving, about the size of a child. It didn't speak, it didn't move, It just sat and stared. What's disturbing is no one else saw it. Not the waitress, not the other diners in the video. The waitress clearly talks only to Cole, never once looking at the seat across from him, but from the camera's angle. That seat was not empty. Witnesses say Cole ran out of the diner. He looked panicked, disoriented. He even walked straight into the glass door on his way out. Then he got on his motorcycle and sped off into the dark. But instead of heading home, he took a forest route. North. 1 he never used, somewhere along that road. His phone tried calling emergency services. The call never connected, but the recording leaked, and what it captured was horrifying. Heavy breathing, sobs, and then a scream. "Let me go. She's following me. Don't touch me." Then static, then silence. A few days after the crash, a forensic tech leaked one chilling detail. Inside Cole's helmeton, the inner visor, were deep scratches, not from the impact, from inside, as if something had been trying to claw its way out, and the markings way too small for a grown man. That same night, a waitress closing up at the diner reported hearing knocks. 3 slow knocks. Coming from the kitchen, but everyone had already gone home. She was alone. As she walked in, the lights flickered, then went completely dark. When they came back on, all the spoons in the kitchen were on the floor, every single one. Security footage caught one final frame before the system shut down. The chair Cole had sat in. It moved, just a little. Just an auto tell you one thing, whatever it was, it's not done. And this was only the beginning. Because one by one, names on the museum's visitor list began reporting strange events. Each person who had stood in front of that glass case, each one who looked at Annabelle, was now part of something bigger. A story that hasn't ended. A presence that isn't finished. And now, it waits for any Onyo dares to believe. On the morning of June 14th, 2025, every local news network in Rhode Island received a strange package. No return address, no postage record. Inside, one USB flash drive, one blurry Polaroid of what looked like a warped doll, and a torn piece of paper that simply read, "Please, don't let it out." At first, everyone assumed it was a hoax, but then someone played the USB. That changed everything. The video was only 11 minutes long. It couldn't be copied, couldn't be transferred. Its contents. Surveillance footage from the museum, the one video that had been declared lost forever. The footage starts quietly, with nothing but late-night museum ambience. Dim lights buzz overhead. The glass case housing the doll is still intact, but around the 4th minute, a sound, a breath back from somewhere just off-screen. Then slowly, the glass begins to fog from the inside, as if something inside the case was breathing. The camera begins to jitter. The lights flicker, and then, without a bang, without impact, the glass cracks. From the inside, slowly, like someone, or something, knocked. Minute 6 is where things turn. The doll is no longer in the display case. It's sitting outside. On the floor, no footsteps, no movement. But its position has changed. Clearly, the camera freezes for 3 seconds, then resumes. Now, the doll is seated on the reception bench. Its head is tilted sharply to the right, its mouth smiling, its eyes now open. The final few minutes of the video show no violence. No screams. No chase. And that's what made it terrifying. The doll simply walks quietly, calmly down hallway after hallway. The camera catches a small silhouette that shouldn't be able to move on its own. No strings, no puppeteers, no tricks. Then it stops right in front of the camera, and it stares. Suddenly, the screen cuts to black. A single message appears. "You saw me. Now, I see you." After the video went viral, the museum was shut down completely, declared a hazard zone by state officials. But it was too late. Too many people had already seen the footage. The original footage straight from the USB. And that's when strange things started happening. Not physical infections, but something worse. A curse that spreads through sight. People began reporting the same dream. 3 knocks at their door, always around midnight. A soft giggle, childlike but too deep, too heavy, like it didn't match the size of the body it came from. Some described being trapped in the museum's waiting room alone as something small, fast, and broken approached from a pitch-black hallway. More reports followed. One person swore the doll stood in the corner of their bedroom for exactly 3 seconds, then vanished the moment the lights turned on. Another claimed their Bluetooth speaker kept repeating the phrase, "Play with me," on a loop despite not being connected to any device. One video editor, obsessed with frame-by-frame analysis of the footage, was found dead in his studio. On the wall behind him, written in blood, "She doesn't like being watched too long." Now, a question haunts everyone who's heard the story. Is the doll still in the real world, or has it moved somewhere more dangerous inside us? A known occultist named Elias Rowe spoke on a late-night podcast. This entity isn't bound to an object, it's bound to attention, to belief. The more people know about her, the stronger she becomes. That theory gained traction when 2 new cases surfaced, one in Germany and one in the Philippines. Both people said the same thing. They watched a repost of the original video on days later. The doll appeared in their bedrooms. One even found a mysterious voice memo in their phone. A laugh, distorted, wrong. The metadata showed it was recorded at exactly 3:33 a.m. They swore they never hit record. Now rumors swirl that government teams are tracking the original USB, but it always slips through. Every attempt to copy it ends the same way, with a blank black screen and static noise, like the file itself is alive and refuses to be duplicated. A curse, coded not in blood, but in viewership. Now the world is divided between those who believe and those who refuse. But the truth, it doesn't care what you believe. The doll isn't just missing. She's moved, not into boxes or basements, but into stories, into screens, into fear. And now that you've read this, you've seen her too. Maybe tonight, when your lights begin to flicker, when you hear soft knocks from the closet, you'll understand this was never just a story. It was a warning, because she was never waiting to be summoned. She was waiting to be watched, and now you're one of them. Every story ends, but not all of them let you go. You've caught a glimpse of its shadow. You've felt its breath on your neck. And now, you're no longer a watcher. You're part of the story. Thank you for listening to Whisper in Shadows. If you're still here, maybe you're brave enough. Or maybe you're already too close to run. Hit like, subscribe, and turn on the bell, not just for updates, but so you'll know when it returns. And if tonight you hear something from the closet, or see a small shadow pass by your mirror, don't turn around too fast. Sometimes, what's watching you doesn't like being seen. We'll meet again in the next darkness, only on Whisper in Shadows.